Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another brand new video. Today I'm here joined with a special guest. His name is Vegan Gains, or Richard Burgess. Vegan Gains is an animal rights activist, a vegan bodybuilder, and a YouTube personality with over 300,000 subscribers. I'm honored today to ask him some questions. I've prepared 12 deep and insightful questions to ask him. So without further ado, let's begin. And Vegan Gains, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I want to begin very briefly talking about your past and your history as it relates to being on a vegan diet. How did you get started on this path? Why did you decide to switch to a vegan diet? And how long has it been since that happened?
Yeah, so back when I was 18, I had a friend at the time who shared a video on Facebook. It was called Gary Yourofsky's Best Speech Ever Told, something like that. It was from the animal rights activist Gary Yourofsky. And before then, I didn't really know anything about veganism. I knew that they didn't eat any animal products at all, including dairy and eggs, which confused me because I just didn't understand why you wouldn't eat dairy and eggs. Like, it's not meat. So I understood vegetarianism. I was actually considering going vegetarian like later in life after I stopped doing sports, because at the time I still thought you needed meat for like health and to get enough protein for sports performance. So I was always interested and concerned about animal ethics, but after watching that video, Gary just debunked that whole idea that you need meat and animal products for protein. He explained why any animal products at all are unethical and unhealthy. And I just went vegan right then and there, day one. So just quit eating animal products cold turkey. And so far, it's been over 13 years that I've been vegan.
Wow, that's impressive. And in these 13 years, have you ever had doubts? Maybe this is the wrong thing to do. Maybe it's okay that this is happening. Maybe it's healthy. We've been evolved to do this. Any doubts creeped in anytime you switched back to?
No, no. Never had any doubts that a vegan lifestyle is unhealthy or that it's ethical to eat animal products. Some of my opinions have changed a little bit when it comes to health. I just fairly recently changed my stance on a vegan diet, reversing atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. Now, it treats atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease quite effectively, but as far as disease reversal itself, it doesn't. And as far as diabetes reversal, the principal risk factor is that's at least modifiable is being overweight. So as long as you can achieve adequate weight loss, there doesn't seem to be a huge difference between diets. Vegan diet does have some advantages when it comes to macronutrient profile, so long as you're avoiding saturated fat. And also, it typically being higher in fiber, that does seem to be an advantage. So I've changed a few of my opinions slightly when it comes to the health stuff, but yeah, as far as like ethics, whether or not you can build muscle and everything, haven't ever had any doubts.
I see. And maybe someone is watching that's new to life, a young man, hasn't really been on the internet much and is new to this vegan concept. How would you summarize this, briefly define it, and maybe convince someone to at least try this for themselves?
Yeah, so the idea of veganism is to grant animals the same rights as human beings if they were to be trade equalized. So I have yet to see a morally substantive difference between humans and animals. Animals can think, feel, they're conscious, they can experience love, happiness, pain, suffering, just like we can. And on that basis, they should be granted the same rights. So if you disagree with that, then I would ask you to name the trait that animals are lacking, that wouldn't rightfully grant them the same rights as human beings. And again, in order to be logically consistent, you would have to then accept that if a human being were to be lacking that trait, it would be okay to kill and eat a human being. So, if you're going to deny human rights to animals, you're also going to deny human rights to humans, which I think is morally reprehensible.
Hmm. Can you give us an example as to the traits example, something that can be more tangible?
Yeah, so like a lot of people will bring up something like intelligence. Well, humans are highly intelligent. We can read, write, do math, construct societies, create technology. That's something animals can't do. So that makes it okay to kill and eat animals. Well, there's plenty of human beings that are severely mentally disabled that can't do that. So if you're going to claim that specific trait of intelligence would deny an animal the right to life, then you would also have to accept that it's okay to kill and eat mentally disabled people.
Hmm. I see. And this ties in nicely to my next question, which is over your long-standing YouTube career and your vegan diet over 13 years, what are the most common myths that people have about eating a vegan diet?
Yeah, so probably the biggest one that's still pervasive to this day is you can't get enough protein. Vegan diets are either low in protein or they don't have the correct amino acid ratio. Both those claims are false. There are plenty of high protein plant foods, so like tofu, tempeh, edamame, beans, lentils, seitan. You can also eat protein powders, just like every bodybuilder eats whey protein. There's soy, pea, rice, hemp protein that you can take in. So you can get an adequate amount of protein. And as far as amino acid ratios are concerned, that doesn't seem to be a problem. You do typically see lower branch chain amino acid content in plant based foods, but so long as protein intake is adequate, again, doesn't seem to affect anabolism, so your ability to gain or retain muscle mass. So that's probably the biggest, most pervasive myth. Another one is that soy protein is feminizing and it causes hypogonadism in men. It's completely not true. If you look at any human research, soy doesn't have any effect on serum androgens in men.
Hmm.
There are some rodent studies, but people aren't rats, so who cares? And I'd say the other big one is that you can't get enough vitamins and minerals, which again is just ridiculous. Plant foods give you every single vitamin or mineral you would need. The only exception being B12, so you are going to have to supplement that. And every society and culture has issues getting certain nutrients. So in the northern hemisphere, a lot of people are vitamin D deficient. I think the rates in the American population is 84%, and that's most prevalent in people with darker skin. So, and there's very few food sources of vitamin D. The only real food source of vitamin D is going to be fish, and you have to eat a lot of fish in order to get the 2000 IUs recommended daily. So unless you're eating like 3 to 4 whole salmon fillets per day, you're not going to get enough vitamin D without supplementation. You can also find some landlocked regions in the world where people don't have access to iodine, and you can find entire villages that are iodine deficient, and they all suffer from hypothyroidism, mental disabilities. So every culture around the entire globe, whether they eat meat or not, they're going to have access to certain foods and certain forms of nutrition, and they may get adequate amounts of some vitamins or minerals, but they might be deficient in some others. So it's not like, oh, you're on a vegan diet, so you have to supplement. Like just about everybody has to take some form of supplementation.
Hmm. What are some of the benefits that you've personally noticed about changing to a vegan diet? Maybe common things, obvious things, and maybe some subtle things over your 13 years.
Yeah, so I have suffered from depression for most of my life, and I did see an improvement in my depression when going vegan. It wasn't massive, but it was a slight improvement. It just also gives you peace of mind knowing you're not paying for animals to get brutally murdered on an industrial scale. So it does make you feel kind of better about yourself, gives you a bit more confidence with what you're eating, and I think that also has an effect on improving your mood. Um, I'm fairly young, so it's not like I've suffered from heart disease or cancer or anything like that. Um, it's not like I reversed any diseases, but I have noticed that I just feel better in general. Like my cardiovascular performance improved. I just have more endurance, more energy. I know in the long term it does reduce risk of heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, and all forms of cancer combined. So I'll probably, have those benefits later in life, just prevention of disease. And I have noticed that weight maintenance is a bit easier. It's a little easier to lose weight and stay leaner.
Okay. Moving on to the side of your YouTube channel, what would you say would be the biggest obstacles that you faced making vegan type style YouTube content?
Um, haven't really faced any obstacles that would be specific to making vegan YouTube content. The style of videos I make, where I'm very aggressive and harsh and confrontational, I have gotten quite a few community guideline strikes, but that's kind of unique to me. Um, I'm the type of person who is very antisocial. So I do get like a lot of troll comments, a lot of haters, but again, for me specifically, I wouldn't consider that an obstacle. I just don't care what people say about me. I do know there's some other creators who've asked for my advice on issues like that. There's a lot of people who are far more sensitive, and they've been very hesitant to make any more YouTube comment or content because of the criticism they received. But my advice to that is just don't read comments. And I'm kind of guilty of this myself. Like when I see stupid crap and just people saying the most ridiculous shit, it can make me mad. And I learned pretty quickly, like you just can't invest time into some of these people. You do want to argue and prove your point and try to get the person convinced that they're wrong, you're right. But I think after just a few message exchanges you can figure out that, okay, this person's just not interested in listening or learning, and you just have to move on and learn to accept that some people are just closed-minded morons, and you just have to do your thing.
And tying with that last question, how did you handle criticism, especially in your earlier years making YouTube videos?
Yeah, so I just don't really care what people have to say about me. When people actually argue about the topic I'm talking about, like they'll say, you're wrong, meat doesn't cause heart disease, or something like that, I would spend too much time arguing with these people. And again, fairly quickly, I learned that if people will not just accept objective facts and you can present the best research imaginable, and then they'll come up with some stupid excuse saying, oh, well, it's just a study and studies can be faked, or something like that. You just have to learn they're idiots. They don't care about research or data or evidence. They're just ideologues, and they just want to cope for their bad behavior. So, if you're making videos covering these topics, the video itself should be evidence enough and clear and concise enough where people won't really have an argument against it. And if they do, and you kind of want to invest some time to explain to somebody like something they got wrong in the comments. If they're not responsive to your corrections and they start saying just weird crap in response, like making up conspiracy theories that, oh, this is a vegan study and they lied, just move on. They're not worth your time.
Hmm. What would you say are the most commonly used arguments in favor for eating meat that you've heard in the past?
Um, they're all weird and they're all bad. So people will just say meat tastes good. It's not really an argument. It's just a statement. They're just saying they don't care and they just, prefer taste pleasure. Um, Another one, I guess, would be like animals aren't intelligent enough to be deserving of rights, but we already covered that. If you think lack of intelligence justifies murder, you have to accept murdering people. Um, I've heard appeal to nature fallacies. It's natural to eat meat. It's like the circle of life. Again, human beings have been committing tribal genocides against each other for who knows long, tens of thousands of years. Since human beings even existed, and even before then, when we were the common ancestor of chimpanzees, well, you can see how chimpanzees behave. They commit tribal genocides. So even before we were humans, we were committing tribal genocide. So again, if nature is what's right, then I guess it's okay for us to just kill, murder each other. So I'd say those are probably the most common arguments. Oh yeah, and just the nutrition thing. You can't get enough nutrition on a vegan diet. You're going to be weak, skinny, because you can't get enough protein.
Mm.
But I think I've debunked that thoroughly after benching 410 pounds.
That was nice. Why do you think that veganism isn't as common as maybe it should be? Why aren't more people vegan?
Well, look, they people are terrible, just inherently. I think most people you come across are ignorant, stupid, willfully ignorant ideologues. I think humanity is prone to violence and fascism. I don't see any explanation of how you can get entire countries and nations to support Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, Mao Zedong, Stalin, Mao. I think people are kind of prone to violence, fascism, and just becoming ideologues. So I think the fundamental reason why like veganism isn't so widespread is just because people are just terrible, self-interested, and they're perfectly willing to support violence if they think they will either benefit from it themselves or they won't suffer any consequences from it. So because animals can't really advocate for themselves, they can't wage war and attack you. Most people are just fine with committing violence against animals because it's of no consequence to them.
Hmm. What are some life lessons that following a vegan diet has taught you?
Um, Always question yourself. I think the like when I turned vegan, it was like a religious experience. It was really bizarre because my whole life, I was told you need to eat meat. It's natural. It's the way things are supposed to be. It's healthy for you. And then when I discovered all of this, I just discovered this was all a lie. So you really have to make sure you question whatever you're told and question your own values and your own reasoning. You can't, just because things are so widely adopted and accepted by society, it doesn't make it right. So from that, I've always learned to not just take everything at face value, do your own research. Even when something seems pretty obvious, it's always good to look at, original sources of information. That's become a huge issue in mainstream media right now. Like you'll see an article and it seems like it could be reasonable enough, but then when you do your own research, look at the original source, that's something completely different. So I would say that's the biggest thing. Just always be skeptical.
Hmm. And tying back to the last question, what was the most spiritual experience you ever had?
Um, I've had quite a few, and each one was pretty unique in its own way. Um, I'd say probably the first one was when I think I almost died in the hospital when I had an E. coli infection in my knee. I was on a whole bunch of opiates. They put me on the highest dose of morphine possible because of how much pain I was in. And I had to be put under for 2 surgeries to clean out the infection. And then on top of that, the nurses also gave me Percocet and OxyContin. And I think that massive amount of opiates that I was on actually made me overdose. And I could feel my heart slowing down. And I felt like I was dying. And I've had near death experiences before where I almost suffocated to death from asthma. So I was familiar with the feeling. And as I felt my heart slowing down, I felt rain coming down on my body. And each droplet had this like insane cooling feeling. And I ended up feeling super, super cold. And then I felt my heart just stop. And I literally felt a wave of like water, like you were as if you were lying down on a beach and you just let a wave come over you. And then I was floating up to the ceiling and I saw myself lying in the bed, and suddenly I just skyrocketed just into space. And I saw the entire universe from like a third person perspective, and then I like felt all of existence. Like each planet and molecule was like a fingertip. That was a pretty crazy experience, and I think that might have actually kind of helped me go towards a vegan lifestyle because I felt interconnected with everything, and it just felt like the consequences of my actions, even if they don't directly affect me, I kind of felt like if I do something to somebody else, it will happen to me because like I'm other people too.
Wow.
So that was probably one of the craziest ones. I've also had a lot of mushroom trip experiences. Some of those were pretty crazy. Um, one in one mushroom trip that was particularly memorable. Um, I felt myself like traveling through dimensions, and I could see these geometric patterns change in front of me as I was traveling through dimensions. And eventually, I ended up going through this like screen door of these geometric shapes. And then I saw this like blank room with a window, and there were these like aliens. They were gray in color. They had small, beady little eyes, and they were in this like control room. And I realized they were looking at my life, and they're actually conducting an experiment, planning my death. And for the longest time, I always felt like I was going to live a very short life. And I probably like anthropomorphized this in the mushroom trip. And these aliens were planning my death as part of this experiment. But because I could see them planning the experiment, it meant I screwed up their experiment and it failed. And they reached out their arm and pushed me back into the dimension that I was like originally from. And then they weren't planning my death anymore. And then when I got out of the trip, I didn't have that sense that I was going to die very young anymore.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. And my last and final question. What has been the most rewarding aspect of being Vegan Gains on YouTube?
Most rewarding is I just feel like I'm just doing something that needs to be done. Somebody needs to speak up for the animals, kind of push people out of this, idiot meathead mindset. And I like that I've kind of changed the online fitness community a bit. A lot of people were making stupid videos about veganism, saying you can't get enough protein, you're going to be, weak and small. A lot of people were promoting really meat-heavy diets, and I've noticed over time that's kind of changed. Now people are kind of acknowledging, okay, you don't need to eat meat, but I'll do it anyway because I like the taste and crap like that. And like I've debated big fitness YouTubers like Mike Israetel, and he admits veganism is a morally superior position. You can be athletic and be a very high performing athlete on a vegan diet. And I think with his Renaissance Periodization Company, they do offer vegan meal plans. So, and he's one of the biggest fitness influencers in the space. So I'm glad to see things are changing, and I've made a bit of a cultural change, at least in this, small fitness niche, where people are, beginning to accept that, yeah, you can be plant-based. It's totally fine. It's not going to be any kind of negative to you.
Yes, and you've definitely changed my perception towards the vegan bodybuilding and weightlifting aspect and the fitness aspect, and you have the results to prove it. So that's it. That's for the long questions. But before we end, I have some very fast, rapid-fire questions. I've written down
Sure.
21. So you can answer with one word or however you like. First is soy estrogen causing?
No. So there's phytoestrogens in soy. They're not the same as mammalian estrogens. They actually block. They fight for the same receptor, and they actually block mammalian estrogen. And again, in human beings, it does not have any androgen disrupting effects. So you can eat as much soy as you want, and it's not going to lower your testosterone or anything.
Okay. You've kind of answered this. Who is the most inspiring vegan activist to you?
Probably Gary Yourofsky. He was the first person to, first person I saw to really argue for veganism and explain, why it's a moral imperative. So yeah, probably Gary.
Okay. Your favorite vegan restaurant in GTA or the world? In Greater
So
Toronto Area.
far, yeah. So far, probably Tenon Vegetarian. I really like that place. It's
Okay.
Japanese vegan food.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. What supplements do you personally take on a vegan diet?
So I just take a multivitamin, B12, and vitamin D.
Do you follow a gym program or do you intuitively do your own thing?
So I write my own programs. I don't think I've ever followed any like online program like Starting Strength, or signed up to anything like Renaissance Periodization for their programs. I've always just written my own programs, and I've gotten better at it over the years, and I think now I'm extremely good at it.
Okay. What would be your final meal on Earth?
Probably. I really like two foods: vegan sushi and vegan fried chicken. So probably a combination of those two things.
Okay. Your favorite vegan cheat meal?
Yeah, probably the vegan fried chicken. Super big fan of vegan fried chicken.
Okay. That's from Doomies, correct?
Doomy's closed down,
Oh.
unfortunately. They've been gone for a while.
Mm.
There's a place in Ottawa nearby that has it's a deep fried mushroom, but they flavor it so it tastes like chicken. The best vegan fried chicken I've ever had, though, was Bring Me Some in Hamilton. They're temporarily closed. They're looking for a new location, but if you ever have the opportunity, Bring
Okay.
Me Some is amazing.
Bring me some. Got it. Do you have a favorite YouTube video that you've made or a style of video?
Yeah, probably my worst of the fitness industry videos are some of my best. I think the one that I did on Jason Blaha was the best one I've ever made.
I agree. Best vegan junk food?
Um, it kind of depends on what your tastes are. Oreos are accidentally vegan. They're pretty great. Potato chips are great. You can never go wrong with potato chips. Um, but I mean, there's so much. There's like so many vegan candies, confectionaries. I would say probably the best cupcakes I've ever had were from Vegan Danish Bakery. Vegan Danish Bakery is fantastic.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
I like cats more. I'm a cat dad.
Cats, okay. Favorite video game of all time?
Probably Last of Us Part Two.
Okay. Favorite YouTuber in general?
I'm really not sure. Um, I consume a huge variety of YouTube content. So I'm kind of a gearhead. I work on my own bikes. I watch a few mechanics channels. I'm just into science technology. I do watch some vegan YouTubers like Danny, Lifting Vegan Logic, Ask Yourself, Dr. Avi. Those are probably the three that I watch the most.
Okay.
Um, but I don't know if I can pinpoint down a favorite YouTuber.
Fair enough. What's your favorite plant-based protein source?
Probably tofu with just how simple it is, and it's easy to flavor. So, if I really want to put the effort in, probably seitan is my favorite mock meat, just to get protein. But it does require a bit more effort to actually make and cook. But tofu for, how you can just so easily flavor it, put whatever sauces you want on it, and it just goes so well with so many dishes. Probably tofu is my go-to.
What's your go-to pre-workout snack?
Can be a lot of different things. Might just have the bowl of oatmeal. Might just make a fruit smoothie. It's usually just, carbs to fuel the workout. So it's either just some fruit. I usually just make blueberry smoothies, or I'll just have like a quick bowl of oatmeal.
Hmm. Do you do cardio before or after lifting weights?
So I try to separate the two as much as possible. Ideally, I would do cardio on separate days, but weight training's more my focus. So if I have to do cardio the same day, I'll usually do weight training in the morning and then cardio later in the day, not directly after.
Okay. Do you track your macros or do you eat intuitively?
The only macro that I track is protein. So I'll relatively accurately track protein. As far as the other macros, not so much. I track calories and protein. I do have a tendency to undereat fat, so I'll usually just make sure that I at least have like a handful of nuts or cook with some oil just to make sure I get enough fat in the day.
Favorite vegan documentary of all time?
Think it would have to be Earthlings. Earthlings is pretty fantastic. Uh, it is a bit older, and some of the footage they got for the documentary is from other countries, and it's like kind of grainier, like cell phone type footage. But they cover every aspect of the animal agriculture industry, how animals are abused. So that includes like pets, animal testing.
Hmm.
So I think that's so far being the best animal rights documentary so far.
Who's your biggest inspiration in the fitness world?
I don't really have anybody within the fitness world that's inspired me. It's it's really just like anime. So Dragon Ball and Berserk. I wanna look and be as strong as like Guts from Berserk.
Mhm. Do you think a lab-grown meat is the future?
Probably. Uh, we already have perfectly adequate mock meats that in my opinion, I think taste better and are better for you than just normal meat. Um, it has better texture. It's easier to flavor. But most people are just jackasses, and they have to have the real thing. So I think going forward, yeah, lab grown meat is probably going to take over conventional agriculture, and then we'll eventually be able to abolish animal agriculture. Uh, that's the only, because people are so selfish and stupid. I think that's really the only way we're going to get rid of animal agriculture.
And the last question here is, well, before that, something just came to mind. Do you think that people will turn to a vegan diet in the near future? Do you think there'll be a time when people are entirely vegan?
As far as people, like a mass amount of people going vegan, because they've had this moral awakening, I don't really see that happening. Again, most people are selfish, self interested jackasses, and they're fine with committing violence against others as long as it either doesn't harm them or it benefits them. So I don't see that really happening where, you see vegan adoption on a mass scale. What I do see happening is just having ethical alternatives that are economically viable, that are as expensive or if not cheaper than animal agriculture, and then people just choosing the more economically viable option that is also happens to be ethical. That's
Mhm.
what I see happening. I don't think you could really call those people vegan, but hopefully in the future, kind of like with black rights, gay rights, a lot of these people who think slavery was so bad in the past, there's a good likelihood that if they grew up in that time period, they would likely be slave owners or supported slavery. So hopefully in the future, this just creates a society that, looks back on animal agriculture saying, how could anybody have ever supported this? Holocaust on a mass scale of animals. That's what I see as the most likely scenario.
Yes, well said. And the last question here, my friend, is who is one person you would love to debate on veganism?
Probably Jordan Peterson. I hate that guy. I think he's a bigot and a moron, and I've been seeing him promote his daughter Michaela Peterson and her line diet, which is she's also a complete moron. I would love to debate an idiot like that, make them look absolutely stupid, and just have a large platform like that to argue for veganism and debunk this jackass who's, supporting the carnivore diet.
Let's make this happen. And that's it for our interview. Thank you so much for Vegan Gains showing up and answering all my questions. If you have any final words, let people know where they can find you and everything about yourself.
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube. I do upload videos once every couple weeks, and I live stream almost every day, usually around 6 p.m. Eastern. And I am also on Instagram, so if you just want to see me make some posts about some of the food I'm eating or my pets or my motorcycles and stuff, usually just post some day in the life stuff there. And anybody can message me for a debate, or if they have any questions, about a vegan diet, getting enough protein. Usually answer most of my emails or messages.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.
Thanks.